Hey everyone, welcome to my first episode on the Raiders H3000 channel, and we are going to be constructing a casino in vanilla Minecraft. This is going to be interesting. Don't get used to this skin because this is a very, very old skin and it was a gift from a friend, and yeah, I'm going to get my own account, we're going to build it, so Let's just do a quick walkthrough of what I've accomplished. Basically what happened was I wanted to make blackjack in vanilla Minecraft, and a bunch of my friends said I should start recording it, so I already got quite a bit of work done, as you can see, but I'll show you what each individual part does, and then also help with the finishing project, because this is not that close to done. And this is just blackjack, so there's probably going to, like in the final casino, there's going to be probably multiple of these machines. I want to do like other forms of gambling, but let me give you a tour of how this works, and that'll probably be the first episode, and then we will be doing like time lapses of me building certain spots, and I stream this, so if you want to head over to Twitch, I do it on the Raiders H3000 channel. So let's get right into this. It all started with this white circuit right here. This is a 4-player game. And we have player 1 way over there, player 2, player 3, and player 4. And each one of these is the player's counter. So in blackjack, you're trying to get to 21. So I have 22 items in here. This redstone line will flicker for how many points that person has gotten from their card. I'll show you all that later. But this will flash a certain amount of times for the number that person has added up through the number of cards they've had. So if you have a 7, this will flash 7 times and it'll drop 7 items into this hopper. There's one item here that is just in there because once 22 items hit, this will go to 2 signal length, and then it'll basically reset. It'll send the items back up to here and through here, because if you hit 22, that means you've busted, and that's game over. But before that, if this gets to 21 or lower, you can stay, which will be this observer line right here. That's the stay, and it'll send, instead of going through here and back up and into it, it's going to be sent into this gray line. This dark gray is the comparison between the player and the dealer, but I built that later, so that's all you need to know for the white. Basically, it counts the amount of, I don't want to say points, but points that the player has racked up through the cards, and then if they bust, it sends a signal saying they busted. That is connected to this green line. Also, this stay line is connected to this green line, but I need to connect it to somewhere else saying that they busted, so that the dealer just takes all the diamonds and they don't have to go through all this. So obviously this happens 4 times for player 1, player 2, player 3, and player 4. I duplicated this exact same machine 3 additional times. The black concrete, I know Mumble would be very proud of me because I'm color coding everything. The black concrete is a card reader. So right here we have a card randomizer. I put that in later, but first I just wanted to make sure the machine would be working. So I would just individually put the cards in. And it went through here, which is basically an item sorter with ace through king. These are all connected to, king, jack, queen, and 10 are all worth 10 points, so they all connect to this singular one. This right here is a binary counter. It turns the card reader into a binary number and shoots that number out through here. Through this dropper, every single time it shoots an item out, because it's receiving the items that had come down. So like, let's say the 7 card was picked, 7 items would shoot out of here and go into this hopper, and then the hopper goes into the dispenser. This right here is emptying out the dropper, but while it's doing that, it's also sending a signal this way. Once these red blocks are up, it'll actually go through. So there's that. Light gray, which is the AI. This white right here is also the AI dealer, but I duplicated a lot of this stuff over here because the fundamentals are the same. This is the bust counter, so there's 22 items in there. If the dealer busts, then it'll send it back up and say basically to over there that the dealer didn't win. And then this little gray line through here goes over to this. Now this is a little bit different. The dealer has a spot on both sides because I wanted to make this a little bit more compact, and this would be just 2 dealer lines going through. But right here we have a minimum. The dealer has a minimum of 16. So if it doesn't reach 16, because you're going to see in here there's 7 items. So once it reaches signal strength 2, that's saying it's good. But if it doesn't reach signal strength 2, then it's going to request another card through here, because it's going, as this is flashing, this turns on this comparator pulse extender, which pushes down right here. If it doesn't receive a signal saying, hey, we've reached 16, don't request another card, then it's going to request another card. I can go a lot more in depth if people are getting a little bit confused. I can show you each component if somebody in the comments were to say, hey, I don't understand how this works, I would like for you to explain it a lot better. And then I went to the dark gray. The dark gray was the next part that I built right here. So the dealer is obviously the last person that's going to be playing. And I'll go through the order of operations later, but since the dealer is going to be the last input and output, this right here, this is the stay clock. So if the dealer's receiving cards, then it's going to pull up here, and once it's done receiving cards, obviously because there's no flashing, it's going to push back down using that same comparator clock over here. If it's at 16, it's going to go through saying stay. This is the start. Once a game starts, it's going to be pushed down, but if the dealer busts, it's going to be pushed up. The bust is going to get here before, because of once again, the comparator clock. This will still be up, so the bust will have pulled that up. Then it goes along here. This is the stay line going all the way to this gray. Now the stay line goes from here. This is cluttered. This is the stay line, the same one that came from over there, and just follows along here the entire way through all 4 players. And with that line, and also, I guess I could also say this gray line right here is the bust. The dealer busted. So we have a stay redstone pulse, and we have a bust signal pulse from the dealer. And they're stacked up on top of each other right here. Stay, the dealer busted. And then it reads to these switches. It'll turn on the comparator once it receives an input, and the comparator won't turn off until it receives another input right here. The stay will follow, pushing up this piston right here. Because as the dealer receives points, these are also going. So the dealer's receiving points, it's going to the bust, it's going to the minimum, and it's going to the counter that's going to face off against the player. So there's 21 cards in here. Every single time this gets shot out, it's going to end up in this dropper. This one will want to follow through here, but it can't because it's not completing the circuit. So whenever a stay or bust happens, it's going to flick up this piston down here, and the piston's going to keep itself on until there's nothing left in here. And then, I feel like I'm going to be saying "and then" a lot in this. Once it's done, it's going to send a signal over to here, which will allow this to go through, which will hit these slime blocks, which will eventually turn these off. If the dealer stays, this is the bust. So if the dealer busts, this ice block is going to come down, and it's going to be fed up back into there, because nothing's going to happen. If the dealer stays, which is this bottom one right here, this ice block is going to come down. And then once all the items are emptied, it's going to turn off both, whichever one was activated, bring the ice block back up. But then it's going to, once it's done, it's going to send a signal over here to these 2 hoppers. This is the player. Like I said over here, if the player stays, it's going to be sent over here. If the player busts, it's going to be sent back up into this dropper. So since this hopper is going to be full, because the player has already played and he decided to stay or he is busted, it's going to end up in this hopper, which is locked until the dealer gets his cards, and this is what happens. A redstone line comes in here, unlocking these hoppers so that they can flow through, and as they drain, these will continue to stay on until they're empty. These pistons will be put down until this redstone line is done. So since this block is down, the repeater is going to turn on this line, which keeps it on and keeps it down, and this will be retracted so no redstone pulse can be put through. Once the items have completely drained, these will retract back up. There's going to be a tiny little delay here which will eventually pull these back up, and it'll go to this green line. This green line is the win, lose, and tie. If they lose, it'll send an item from here, from this dropper into the hopper, and power this comparator, which will turn on this piece of redstone, which will be observed and sent over to the main machine. If you win, there won't be any redstone output here because it just barely makes it through, and it'll turn on this one, and this gets sent over to be processed. If it's a tie, both of these will turn on the exact same time, turning these both on, which will turn off this redstone line, which will turn on this torch, which will turn on this redstone line, which will push out these blocks so that the redstone signal won't be turned on. That's why there's a delay here, so that this has all the time that it needs to extend before it receives a redstone signal. And then obviously that gets observed. These observers follow all the way through here, each one following the same win, lose, tie, win, lose, tie, win, lose, tie, and go over to this green right here. Right here, we have these three pistons, win, lose, tie, which will, since it's going to only send one single tick, it's going to pull the redstone back, which is going to unlock whichever hopper it is. If you win, it'll just go straight back up to the player. If you lose, it'll go straight up to the bank. If you tie, it'll split the diamonds in half because I've already put in the dealer's amount to match the player's through a little piece up there. So this will split it in half, send half back to the bank, and send half back to the player, which is the same amount that the player put in, obviously duplicated 4 times. So whenever I am up here, I'm a player. So I have my diamonds. I can put in as many as I want, but for right now I'm just going to put in 1. As you can see, it'll go through this item filter over here, which is right there. And if it's any other item, it'll go through and it'll get shot back out at the player saying, hey, this is an actual payment, we don't accept this. But you will see, like I said, the dealer will put in the same amount that you put in. So there's 2 in there. Since I put in 1, there's 2. Now this clock will say, all right, there's an item in here, I want to start getting these items out, but because this redstone block isn't up, it'll just keep going until this piston pushes it up, which is from the green line, saying, all right, everything's processed. The win-lose has happened through this because we observe that, send a redstone signal, and then this will single tick push this up, and then it'll start emptying out. But it's saying, all right, player 1 is playing. So I send it into this comparator pulse extenders so that while this player is playing, it'll say that constantly throughout the entire thing that it's playing. We transfer onto the red now. The red top line is basically saying, all right, the player's not playing, because you can see none of these are extended, so the signal can actually go through. And right here, it can't go through because the piston's extended. This piston's also extended, but the bottom is saying this player's playing. If I were to put any items in this, the pistons will extend again, saying, all right, this player is playing, and since it's extended, it'll complete the circuit because there's a redstone repeater right there that'll be received through. And I also wanted to make sure that somebody could stand on the first player and the fourth player and be no issues. So these would be retracted so that it'll skip them and then hit the fourth player and it'll go through that. So if I were to take these out, and now we're getting to the player switching mechanism. So remember these from way back there where when it receives an input, it'll turn on this comparator, and the comparator will stay on until it receives another input. So this observer right here goes over saying, all right, this player 1 is playing right now, and it's his turn. So once the player is done, this piston will extend from the green line, and then it'll transfer to these slime blocks, which will hit these redstone repeaters, and move on to the next player. It would skip back to the dealer because nobody else is playing, but if somebody else was extended, it would go through their comparator item keeper, I guess, let's just say. And then the same thing will happen again, where it'll receive an input from this green line or this orange line. I'll go over the orange line in a little bit. And it'll switch over. So it'll do all that. And then it'll go to the dealer. The dealer has its own, and it'll request a card, etc., doing the same thing that you will be able to do over there. But I guess the next major thing is the orange line. The orange line is your start line. So once everybody has put their diamonds in, as you can see, I put my diamonds in, but the comparator wasn't on. That's because I want everyone to be able to put in their bets first, and then they will be able to push the button saying start game. So this will turn on this item keeper. I've been saying, I gotta look up the name, which will keep this on saying, all right, the game is starting. And obviously each player needs 2 cards and the dealer needs 1 card. So since there's this orange line right here, which says, all right, player 1 is playing, so send a signal out saying, I need a card for player 1. And then it'll do that. Once it's switched to player 2, all right, we need a player 2 start, we need a player 3 start, we need a player 4 start. While this is on, it'll be powering this piston so it can actually go through. I needed to add quite a bit of delay. And then this purple line just draws a card. It's just a redstone line that goes to the randomizer. As you can see, the redstone for the orange line is still down here. This is the card doubler. So I needed to call 2 cards for each player. So once the item goes through here, the piston will extend this observer and it'll turn on this redstone line. This will be extended because the start game quote is on. It'll come down here and it'll turn this on saying, all right, we need another card. Once it comes back down, it'll turn it off so the player gets 2 cards, because there will be already a card that was sent, and this one just requests another card and turns itself off. Then this right here is the automatic player switcher. So once the redstone line is on, this double piston extender will come up, connecting this circuit, getting it prepped for the first one. Once the first card comes down, this piston will retract it, and then once it receives another card, it'll push it back out and it'll receive a redstone line going through here. I want to wait until the lights up here are done flashing, because if you get 2 kings or something like that, the lights are going to flash for quite a while. And I don't want it switching players, which will switch the players right here over to the next person. So the next person would be receiving the points, I guess. So while that is still flashing, this will just stay on. And once it receives another pulse coming through here, it'll just send us, it'll turn off and it'll send a single pulse up through here, which was the orange line that hit the green line to switch it to the next player. I know I can be pretty bad at explaining this. If you guys want me to build it, I can do that too, like build each individual component. If you guys are interested in making this for yourselves, it does take quite a bit of time, but I've found it very fun. This yellow line right here is the game is finished line. So once the game is over, obviously press that. It's going to have quite a few more pieces that are put in. I will be obviously streaming that, and I will be uploading the time-lapse footage to YouTube under the same username for both of them. When this is activated, saying, all right, this player won, this player lost, or we tied, the way that it stays until the game is finished by locking these hoppers. These hoppers are locked right here, so the yellow line right here will turn off this torch, which will turn on these torches, which will turn off these torches, which will unlock these hoppers and send the item back in, restarting this entire system right here. And then, basically, the only thing that I have left to talk about, really, is the blue. Blue is item return to player and or dealer. When the dealer is going to be receiving his cards, this will be up, this will be over, so the water stream goes through there and up to the dealer. I have quite a bit of work left to do with that. Once any player is playing, this block will be down and this block will be back the way that it is, so it's being sent to a player. And then right here, these observers are from that red line over here that I showed you saying, all right, player 1 is playing. So that observer also, on top of switching these redstone blocks, turning them to on, saying that player is going to be receiving the points, it's also going to turn on these specific pistons. So if player 1 is playing, it'll just put up this ice block and it'll send everything that needs to be sent through there. If player 2 is playing, this block will come up and this block will come up. Player 3, this block will come up, this block will come up, and this block will come up. And player 4, this one, this one, this one. I know that's very long-winded. These blue lines come from the diamonds over here. I didn't want to mess with a bunch of timings to send it through that same water stream. So from these green lines, The lose goes to this blue line, which gets sent over here and back to the bank. These other two blue lines is player 3 and player 4 from the hoppers that were received through these green lines. So this right here is the lose condition. So these hoppers will send it to the bank, and these hoppers will send it to the player. The cyan, which the cyan is the card randomizer and the card storage. So first, the item return. So you're going to be receiving your cards. This is where the dealer's cards will be shown. So you can see the dealer's cards and say, all right, do I want to hit? Do I want to stay? This is also the card return. So you'll put all the cards that you didn't use, and then eventually once the game is finished, there'll be something that happens, and the shulker will be sent here, and the items will be emptied out. The shulker will follow this line and go back up and be returned up there. Then we have another item storage, just like the black one down there, where it organizes them into their specific places and gets sent here. Here's all the evens, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, queen. I will be making sure there's only 4 cards in there when there's actual gameplay. And then here's all the odds, jack 3, 5, 7, 9, king. I took the aces out because I do have an ace system, but I do also want to make ace high and low, and this just won't cut it. I have something in my test world that will be able to fix that, but I just haven't put it in yet. So, like I said earlier, this purple line is the grab a card line, and it'll send a pulse to this dropper, which will output a stackable item and an unstackable item, and the stackable item will hit here, and the unstackable item will hit here because those output 2 different signal lengths. The stackable the unstackable will hit 2, the stackable will only hit 1, and it'll randomize whichever one gets shot out of each one, because droppers are semi-randomized. I mean, there's no such thing as true randomization, but that's the fundamentals of this. Like I've been saying over and over and over again. Oh, here's the aces. Like I've been saying over and over again. If you want a preview of each individual system and how I built it, I can do that. That would be by probably popular comments saying like, hey, can you show us how you made like the dark gray or the green? And I will do that. But otherwise, it's just going to be time lapses of my streams, and also probably me afterwards talking about what happened. So thank you for watching the first episode of the casino in vanilla Minecraft. And obviously we're not just going to be doing blackjack, like I've said, but this one's a big boy, so I wanted to get it done, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it, so I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching it, and I hope you guys will stick around for more episodes. Bye.